Hello, welcome back. In this lesson, you will learn how to conjugate verbs and adjectives in the past tense. Unlike the present or future tenses where you have just one suffix, get or nothing at all, in the past tense we have 3 suffixes. For this reason, in order to be able to conjugate any verb or adjective in the past tense fluently, you need to spend some time and effort to memorize some rules and practice. As I said earlier, there are 3 suffixes that help us to conjugate verbs and adjectives in the past tense. You need to choose one of these 3 suffixes depending on what vowel is the last one in a stem. As you remember, there are 21 vowels in the Korean language, 10 basic and 11 double vowels. To your luck, the last vowel in the stem of most of Korean verbs and adjectives is one of 10 basic vowels, which means you need to memorize less information. Look at these verbs. Try to find the last vowel in each verb stem. In the verb 만나다, the last vowel in a stem is a. In the verb 보다 is o. 먹다 is o. 마시다 is i. 가르치다 is also i. And 공부하다 is also a. But remember, all verbs and adjectives where stem ends with ha are different from other verbs and adjectives where stems also end with a. For example, 만나다 or 가다, in the sense that you need to use different suffixes for them. at for 만나다 and 엿 for 공부하다. 만났습니다, 보았습니다 or 봤습니다, 먹었습니다, 마셨습니다, 가르쳤습니다. So here 2 syllables merged into one syllable. 시 and 엿 became 숏. 치 and 엿 became 촛, and so on. And the verb 공부하다 in the past tense will be either 공부하였습니다 or 공부했습니다. 공부하였습니다 and 공부했습니다 are semantically equal. But this second version is rarely used. Often, but not always, it is used in books and newspapers. So when you conjugate verbs and adjectives with this syllable 하 at the end, I suggest you to use the first version, 공부했습니다. Here also 2 syllables 하 and 엿 merged into one syllable, 했. You might think why or how a plus 여 became 에. Well, just don't think about it. Accept it as it is. Here's the table, which looks scary, but it's very important to know which of these a, o, or 여 you need to use. It is important not only for verb and adjective conjugation in the past tense, but for the most Korean grammatical constructions. So here are the rules, and these are examples. Let's divide these rules into 3 categories so that you could learn them faster. Basic vowels, double vowels, and the basic vowel U. Let's start off with the basic vowels. So if the last vowel in a stem is a or o, use the suffix at. 가다, 갔습니다. 받다, 받았습니다. 보다, 보았습니다 or 봤습니다. 놓다, 놓았습니다. And if the last vowel is o, 서다, 우, 두다, 여 or 이 followed by a consonant, for example, 겪다 and 있다, in all these cases use the suffix 엇. 서다, 섰습니다. 먹다, 먹었습니다. 두다, 두었습니다 or 두었습니다. 굴다, 굴었습니다. 겪다, 겪었습니다. 있다, 있었습니다. And if 여 or 이 are the last letters in a stem, which means unlike 겪다 and 있다, there shouldn't be any letter after 여 or 이 in the stem. For example, 켜다 and 마시다. So in this case, use the suffix 엿. 켜다, 켰습니다. 마시다, 마셨습니다. Also, if the last syllable in a stem is 하, use the 엿 suffix as well. 전하다, 전하였습니다 or 전했습니다. You must be a little confused because of the assimilation that you saw in some verbs. So this is how it works. First of all, assimilation takes place only if a stem ends with a vowel, okay? If the stem ends with a consonant, then there is no assimilation. In the verbs 봤다, 넣다, 먹다, 굴다, 겪다, and 있다, these stems end with a consonant. That is why these suffixes are not assimilated with the preceding letters. But if a stem ends with a vowel, then something happens to this vowel when followed by one of these three suffixes. It either disappears, like in the examples 가다, 갔습니다, 서다, 섰습니다, 켜다, 켰습니다, 마시다, 마셨습니다. Or it forms a double vowel together with the following vowel, which is a part of the suffix. For example, 보다, 봤습니다, 두다, 두었습니다. Or it's just replaced by a completely different vowel. 전하다, 전했습니다. Let's move on to the second category. If the last vowel in a stem is one of these 5 double vowels, then use the suffix ot. 쉬다, 쉬었습니다. 되다, 되었습니다. or 됐습니다. 디다, 디었습니다. 세다, 세었습니다. or 셌습니다. 내다, 내었습니다. or 냈습니다. 뱉다, 뱉었습니다. These forms, 세웠습니다 and 내었습니다, are grammatically correct, but they almost never used. That is why say 셌습니다 and 냈습니다 instead, okay? These are just examples. Whenever you see a verb or an adjective that ends with one of these 2 double vowels, use this second method to conjugate them in the past tense. You may wonder, how about other double vowels, right? There are 11 double vowels, but we mentioned just 5. The reason is, in the Korean language, verbs and adjectives where stems end with other 6 double vowels either don't exist at all or they are very, very rare. That is why I did not include them. And the last category is the verbs and adjectives where stems end with the letter U. If a syllable with the vowel U is preceded by a or o, then use the suffix at. 바쁘다, 바빴습니다. 고프다, 고팠습니다. And in other cases, use the suffix ot. 예쁘다, 예뻤습니다. 크다, 컸습니다. Here and here, the letter U drops. So you have just learned how to conjugate verbs and adjectives in the past tense. Knowing these rules is very important in the Korean language because you're going to use them not only for the past tense, but for most grammatical constructions. That is why spend some time and practice it. Here I prepared a list of verbs and adjectives. If you want to practice, conjugate them and write your answers in the comment section. And here is the list of new words. We will be using them in the next lesson.